Okay, welcome back to Adam Versus. Um, Today just wanted to give you some tips on maybe you made your basketball league championship, the head to head, and maybe you're having a hard time, whether it's injuries or whatever the case may be, or it's just a good matchup. But I wanted to give you some tips on how to win your matchup. So, looking at this is a league that I'm in. Um, I'm playing the number one seed. I'll show you the standings. I'm playing the number one seed. I was the fourth seed. Um, I had a lot of issues with this team this year. I'll show you real quick here the draft recap. My first three picks are out. So Wall's out, Butler's out, Conley's out. It makes it hard to compete when you lose your first three draft picks. And then the rest of it, I didn't really have a good draft. I picked Fultz way too high, and it just wasn't. Levine was out for half the year, so in order for me to make the playoffs, it took a lot of transactions, I should say. Like I started out 0-4, and then I won a bunch in a row, lost one, and then a bunch in a row. So I've won. I don't even know how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I'm 15-1 since I started off 0-4, and you can see that was because of my draft was kind of messed up. So let's get back into the strategy. So the thing is we'll look at my team real quick. As you can see, my team is just mismatched random players that I scraped off of waivers mostly. None of them, except for Middleton and maybe Mitchell, are over 90%. A lot of them aren't even 50% owned. But I'm competing each week based on scouring waivers, looking for matchups, grabbing players that maybe are filling in for a day or so for injured players. But yeah, there's things you can still do to compete, even though your team may not be at full strength or is just not a good team. Which mine is no longer a good team because I lost my first three draft picks this year. But one of the things I do, like I go in, look at their last 7 days production. Looks like Buddy Hyde has been doing pretty well. I also look at the most added to see who the players are that's most added. You can see their stats by just clicking on them. Quinn Cook, yeah, since he could be a good pickup. I don't know what his injury is, but looks like he got hurt yesterday. So that's things you got to pay attention to. But there's always players on waivers, especially late in the year, because of injuries or rest or things like that. So it does affect your playoffs matchups. So along with searching waivers, I go in and check my schedule. I look for ways to gain starts. The number of starts you have each week are really important. If somebody has 4 starts and you only have 2 or 3 out of a player, they already got an extra game on you of point production. So I'll show you what in the matchups here. If you go down to total on the scoreboard, it'll tell you like games This is how many games they have throughout the matchup. So the majority of mine are 7 and 6. He has a couple 8s. But his team is really good. So he's probably not going to have to do a whole lot in terms of adjustments. If you look at his team, a lot of his are above 90% owned, and they're just good players. So he already has the advantage. I have to make a ton of adjustments on my team in order to keep up, and it shows because I am still close. But I mean, I've made 6 moves and he's made none. So I don't know if he'll make moves. I know he's adjusting his team, but like he's got Tyson Chandler, which I don't think has played in a couple games. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, you can see that he's adjusting his team on the 12th. Yeah, he just knows he has a good team. So, and he went out to a big lead, so I've kind of caught up the past couple days. But yes, the main thing I do is optimize my starts. If I go in, like you just go to your schedule, and if I see a guy, maybe he doesn't have any games for the next 3, I'll go in on waivers and see if somebody has 2 games maybe in that 3-day period. Like Chris Middleton has 2 games in the 3-day period. If I have a player that doesn't have any games in a 3-day period, I'll just drop them and pick up the player and add two starts to my team. So that improves my overall production by 2 starts. Let's see. I got another team here. Maybe I can see. Yeah, this team is in the same boat. I had. I'll show you the draft real quick on this one. I have Curry, Gobert, who was hurt a lot this year, Klay Thompson. So Curry and Thompson have been out, so it's really put me behind. And yeah, wasn't the greatest draft, but I still was able to go into the playoffs. Again, I think I was the 3rd seed in this one. So to adjust my team for today, I'm gonna still put in Curry and Murray. So I want to look at their team, and it looks like they are way ahead on starts. So I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm not gonna win this matchup, but I'm gonna still do my best to try and see. This guy's using his starts. Like, he's actually out adjusted me, which he picked up Reggie Bullock today, Austin Rivers. So he added 2 players. So what I'm going to do is I go to the schedule. It looks like tomorrow I'll be able to catch up tomorrow. But if you look, Curry, he is supposed to start a game today, and then the next 3 days he'll be off. So Curry would be, like, a player like Curry would be a perfect candidate to drop and plug in a 2-start player, because then you gain 2 more starts. So the thing is I don't think Curry's droppable. I don't know if he's coming back today or not. I might just add Hyde today just to get, but see, that's the other thing. You may see a player that's doing really well recently, and then you go to pick them up, and then they only have 2 games in the next 5 days, 6 days. whereas some players have 3, and actually some may have more. Sometimes you'll find a 4-game, 6-day stretch, but it's pretty hard to find. But if I was to drop somebody, it might be Brewer. Actually, I might drop Peyton, as he hasn't been playing very well. How many minutes is he getting? 27. He's still getting minutes, but I'm going to do that just so I can say I'm doing something. So I'll put him in my starting lineup. But this matchup for me just doesn't look good. His team is way too good. Yeah, he's got Towns, Adams, Simmons, Turner, Julius Randle, Oladipo. So it's going to be really hard for me to catch him. But yeah, to recap, every day you want to check your matchup, look on waivers for players you can add starts to yours, like to drop players that aren't playing or get rid of injured players. And that will maximize your stats.